Howdy, folks. Justin here. Welcome to episode 10 of From Loser to Legend. Today we're talking about 7 steps to success, 7 steps, seven key things that I keep in mind when I'm playing to keep me at the point in my game that I'm satisfied with. We're going to take you from the guy up top who is not taking any steps towards success, is actively walking backwards away from success, to that guy over there who has a medal on because he just ran a marathon through the blistering cold towards success. Many steps taken. Um, these are just little key facts, factoids, little things to think about, keep in mind that I remind myself of when I'm trying to play really well. Um, Things that have been helpful for me, and some of them are summarizations of videos we've talked about in the past. Some of them are just things that are only sort of obvious after you think about them or after somebody else tells you to them. These are not necessarily all original ideas. The smartest person I've ever known, actually told me one time that the smartest thing he does is take the advice of other people, and so that's what I do, is take the advice of other people. So anyway, let's get rid of this intro screen. We're going to play a game against the AI while we have this little chat. We're going to take the Battle Mage Dwemer deck against the Novice AI. Hopefully we don't get destroyed too hard. And just so there's something going on in the background in case there's an opportunity to highlight a point, we'll do that. So let's get right to it. Playing against the Titan of the Forge. I think this is also a Battle Mage deck. It's going to be really sad because we lack removal and playable cards. But the first step to having a lot of success in this game, I think, is a pretty important, pretty obvious one to me, is mastering your deck, or mastering at least a style of play. Right? There's a lot of different cards that are very playable in this game. Everything from aggro to control to mid range to ramp to combo to Dwemer to multiple archetypes in 10 different color combinations. There's a lot of different things you can do and be successful with in this game. Um, Mastering a deck or a style is a great way to hop into the game and be proficient at something well enough to begin to understand the greater nuances of the game as you play more and more. Um, for me, I started off playing Action Mage. Well, actually, my very first deck that I played on the ladder was the Assassin deck that you were given when you finished story mode. But the first deck I theory crafted and built my own. I dusted all my cards because it was closed beta, and I figured, like, what's the worst that could happen? And then I built this Action Mage deck, a deck very similar to the budget mage list that I have several videos for if you're interested in checking that out. But really getting a grasp on your favorite style of play can make you better at playing the game, more successful, and you're just gonna have a better time. Picking up a net deck, it's a deck that is really good in the hands of some people, but I have a lot more success personally playing decks that I create or that fit a style that I like or and am familiar with. Then I have a lot more success doing that than I ever really do playing net decks. Which isn't to say there's if you're a combo player and there's a great new combo deck out there that you hadn't thought of, but you see a list for it and it looks fun, by all means, you should pick it up. I don't have anything against net decking. I just know that you're going to find more satisfaction and happiness by playing something that fits what you know or what you like. So that's the first step. The second one is actually much more game specific, and it is lane placement. I talked about this in a video called Lane Placement and Knowing Your Role. In Elder Scrolls Legends, because of the way that the lane system works, it can be very overwhelming at times, especially as a newer player, to know where exactly you should place your minions. So I have a very simple, simple rules of thumb that I follow as far as lane placement goes. There are going to be situations where this is not going to be the correct way to do it, but this is generally just a good rule to follow, in my opinion, most of the time, certainly when you're getting started. And it goes something like this. If you are the aggressor, and you know this because of the colors of the deck you're playing versus the colors of the deck your opponent's playing, and you of course know your deck, and if you know your opponent, what they're playing. If you are the aggressor, you want to begin by putting your small creatures in the left lane, in the field lane. This is for two reasons. First of all, In the beginning, the likelihood of your opponent having a charge creature to remove your small creature is a lot lower than it is later in the game. But more primarily, this is so as the game goes on and the opponent, the reactive player, starts putting cards into the field lane to contest your creatures, you can put your creatures into the shadow lane where they are then defended from charge creatures for a turn and have the opportunity to get in at least one attack against an opponent, assuming no guard in the way, before they can be attacked back by their creatures. If you're the reactive player and you are playing against an empty board, there are certain circumstances on which you would want to play the first minion. Um, you know, you'd have to know or have a pretty good idea what your opponent's got going on. But if that's the case, and you have, let's say, a Fighters Guild recruit in your hand, and it's turn two, and your opponent hasn't played anything turn one, laying the Fighters Guild recruit down into the shadow lane is not a horrible idea because it funnels them into the field lane, where you can uh, where you have better opportunities to trade without having to worry about the cover effect of the shadow lane covering the lane for a turn. So generally speaking,
By the eighth,
it
they will meet
is
their makers.
a really solid plan to follow that basic set of rules. A good example of this is Ungolem. Turn one Ungolem should always go in the field lane, right? That would be the best way for me to, I think, explain what my thoughts are about all this. Um,
Shame on you.
yeah. I mean, we're drawing first because you're supposed to draw first, but in this deck it doesn't matter much. We'll just let him hit us. So the next, nature's going fancy. I like playing against the II sometimes because you actually do get some interesting ideas based on what they're doing. The next important rule of thumb, rule number 3, if you will, that I go by, is plan your next turn during your opponent's turn. This is because, and I think this is a good, state of mind to start being in. I know that until I started recording videos, actually, when I was just playing Hearthstone, um, I was always during my opponent's turn, even though it's just like a minute long, surfing the web and watching YouTube videos, texting people and stuff. I find that if I really want to stay at the top of my game, I need to be plotting out all of my contingencies for my next turn, with the information I have available at the time during their turn. It's really easy to run out of time on a turn in Legends compared to other games because Legends is a very complicated game in a lot of in a lot of situations. A lot of board states have a lot of factors you need to consider, and so having an advanced plan, even if it's one you end up changing because you draw a certain card, is I think super key to being successful. It's just a small little tip, but I think it's really important just to pay a lot of attention to what your outs are. Um, from drawing, but also to have a plan based on just the information you have. And that leads me to my fourth tip, actually, my fourth step to success, and that is play to your outs, right? It's not just a coincidence that I have several videos where I put on the RNG sunglasses when I get a lightning bolt prophecy and lethal my opponent with it. It's because I'm conscious of the fact um, that the only way I'm going to win that game is if I hit a prophecy lightning bolt, and so I set up a life total again for my opponent, where that will make that a reality. Um, it's sometimes better to play to your outs and play aggressively with like a 75% fail rate and a 25% success rate than it is to take a gradually losing strategy. Example of this might be playing against Archer. Playing against Archer, sometimes the correct move is actually just to push face damage and kill them. Even when you're a slower, more reactive deck, like you're playing Spell Sword Control, or you're playing Mage Control, or you're playing any number of slower decks, Monk Control. Archer is a deck that has a difficult time a lot of the time capitalizing on a huge fistful of cards if they're being aggressed down. This is just one example of this. But in that case, playing your outs might just be the fact that if they don't draw the very specific removal cards that they need, or their removal lines up poorly against what you've got going on, pushing face damage and winning, even though potentially can lose you the game to some prophecies, the flip side of this is that in the long game, your deck doesn't stack up well against Archer's engine of Soul Rest Marshal and Blood Dragons and Burn and Pillage, so you just need to get the game over with one way or the other, and you have a better chance of doing that by going aggressive. This is you know, the sort of thing I picked up in Magic actually. Uh, just I can just be summed up by saying play to your outs. I talk about this in several videos, and I think this kind of comes up a lot in my videos, where I win seemingly out ridiculous odds, and I do that just because I'm able to reflect on what could win me the game, and I should play like I have it. You can actually, if you play that way too, you can often frequently cause your opponent to make some pretty hysterical misplays because it's not exactly easy to react to a player's bluff correctly in a game like Legends where you're not sitting face to face, unlike poker, which is my other love. Um, you don't have any of that information. So if you make big, bold, aggressive moves on the board, sometimes your opponent reacts by making trades that they shouldn't be making. They should be pushing damage themselves. So that is play to your outs. We're going to take our turn here real quick. I think we need to slow down this guy. Get enough power over there to remove that. We have actually quite a few combo pieces in hand, if that's the route we want to take. But I think our move here is maybe just Barded Guar. Keep Dwarven Spider in hand. It's easy with this deck to fill up the board unnecessarily.
Avail yourself of this.
Now look at your bandit. That Dwarven Spider is actually pretty good against our plan here. So this brings me to step to success number 5. These are just steps that I'm taking to be at the top of my game. Know your prophecies. This is huge. I have a video actually, Loser to Legend episode 2.5 or 3.5, where I talk about every single prophecy card in the game and the best strategies to play around it. So if you really want a detailed explanation for that sort of thing, I would recommend you check that video out. It's in the Loser to Legends playlist. But it's really important, I feel, that you consider the prophecy cards your opponent is likely to be running, but also, keep in the back of your mind that the prophecy cards they could, be running at all. It's. I remember the first time I saw Lurking Crocodile is the best example of this. The first time I saw Lurking Crocodile, the 3/2 prophecy neutral card trigger when I was playing against an assassin, I was just like, I had no idea that card existed. And I had done a video where I talk about prophecy cards, and I'm pretty sure in that video I mentioned that I probably say like, don't worry about playing around this card. But if if you do, here's if you know your opponent's running, here's what you do and stuff. But knowing your opponent's prophecy cards, both likely and unlikely but possible, can really help you play the game well. Just knowing about the existence of Lightning Bolt, I feel like, is the easiest way to explain this, can really help you make a lot better decisions when it comes to when it comes to pushing lethal earlier in the game than you would otherwise. Knowing, keeping 3 Magicka for a Crushing Blow in hand when your opponent is playing green for that inevitable Werebat trigger is another good example of this. But it's really important to my success in this game that I consider all the possible prophecies, and I think that's just a really good rule of thumb. You can even create a little cheat sheet. There's not that many prophecy cards. Maybe have a text document or just a paint, a JPEG or whatever people use for computer program files now these days, picture files. You just have that on your desktop just to know your outs the possible outs your opponent has when triggering prophecies. So we're going to do our turn real quickly here. Seems alright. The 6th step is, of course, something I mentioned earlier, but I'll get into a little more detail now, which is know your role.
I will learn by doing.
Student of Arms. It's really important, I think, to consider your role as a flexible thing in this game. It's not always going to be clear cut, right? Like, it's not like you're always going to be playing against Crusader aggro and you're playing Control Mage, and you know your role, right? You know that you're the reactive deck until you kill your opponent, basically. In a game like Legends, which rewards mid-range strategies pretty consistently enough that it's definitely something you're likely to have some experience with or you've seen somebody play against. In a game that rewards mid-range strategies like Legends does, it's important that you know when you need to be the aggressor. You know, some key tips to to this point include such things as don't push early face damage against your opponent if you have drain creatures that you're later going to want to attack with, because you might be setting yourself up for a point where you break an extra rune and give your opponent extra chances to trigger prophecy, draw extra cards, have more resources, more ability to win the game. You know, that's a really uh, key thing to consider when playing, especially Night Shadow. Another example of this of the importance of knowing your role is when you are playing a combo deck like the I say combo deck, but not the Wisp Mother combo, but the Supreme Atromancer, um, Supreme Atromancer. I'm sorry, I've just slipped my mind the name of the card. Raiding Party card, and you're trying to do a whole bunch of damage and possibly even one turn kill your opponent there. When you're playing those sorts of strategies, you need to consider the fact that you're going to be playing as a control deck in the early game, but there comes a point where if your opponent runs out of resources, and you need to just kill your opponent, and not worry about your combo. I think most of the people playing a deck that complicated are probably aware of that, but that's just sort of an example of how you should be working that sort of strategy. Finally, I think it's really important that you switch it up. You play a little bit of everything. Don't just play on the ladder to legend and then grind legend ranks. Take advantage of the fact that you can play games like this against the AI with ridiculous decks and have some fun doing that. And earn some soul shards in the process. Take advantage of the fact that you can play solo arena and have a great time doing that. Playing with cards that would never ordinarily see play against a whole bunch of really cool lanes that you don't get to play with usually. Against decks you don't get to play with usually. And skill test yourself that way. And finally, play versus arena. The rewards are great in versus arena. You have the opportunity to get a whole lot of cards that way, build your collection up for cheap or free. Um, and to that end, have fun playing this game because this is an amazing game. Elder Scrolls Legends is the next generation of collectible card games, right? A type of game that started with Magic the Gathering, 25 years ago, um, and went digital, in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Uh, has in Elder Scrolls Legends the first of a brand new generation of card games like this that has learned from the first generation of digital card games and perfected and improved upon every aspect of them. Not perfected necessarily, but improved upon every aspect of them. Elder Scrolls Legends owes a lot to Hearthstone, not in the sense that it copies its mechanics, because there are certain mechanics that are universal to the collectible card game genre. But what it owes it to is that there are fundamental flaws in the construction of the engine of the game, of the mechanics of the game in Hearthstone that you really can't change unless you create a new game. Elder Scrolls Legends, existing as it does now, being created by not software designers or game designers, computer game designers, but being designed by professional card game players who have been there since the beginning of this phenomenon of collectible card games. It has the advantage of all that experience. It's standing on the shoulders of giants, so to speak, and it has created a game that is both improving on other old systems and creating brand new ideas like the lane system, the prophecy system, the rune system. It really does some amazing things with all that, taking small pieces of several different kinds of card games, the lore of Elder Scrolls, and packaging it together with some brand new ideas for a fantastic game that is, the sign of the direction of the things to come in this format, as far as I'm concerned. So have fun. Take advantage of the fact that you're in the ground floor of one of the coolest games this genre has ever seen. So those are my steps. We're gonna finish this game off now. We're going to. We're actually gonna pass turn. We're gonna drop Wisp Mother, followed by Wisp Mother, and then Relentless Raider, and see if we can't have a little fun now. We are, of course, always getting closer to the point where we have drawn too many cards. We're going to try to make this happen. It looks like actually we need to remove that. So let's Crushing Blow this. Let's Barded Guar. And then play a Daggerfall Mage. This will let us Slap 8 damage at that thing.
Sails of Sabaton.
Ooh, enraged mud crab.
I ride like the wind.
Serious bomb in this deck. So unless he gets, you know, I mean, there are definitely cards he could get that would kill us, but
Shall take you.
we're just going to do this. Then we're going to do this. Okay, Wisp Mother. Pass turn.
Blood and pain.
I feel like
We'll
what better
hold
way
the
to
line.
end From Loser to Legend episode 10 than with something like this. So it looks like we can only get 3 Relentless Raiders on the board, fortunately. But that should be enough
I have no fear
to
of
have
you,
a good time.
cowardly I have no fear of you, cowardly I have no fear of you, cowardly skeever.
Right on. So we did trigger a prophecy, which is always exciting. This will be the last episode of From Loser to Legend at Portcullis. You know, it's a 9 episode series because actually I kind of hope we lose because I think it'll be hysterical. It's a 9 episode series or 10 episode series because there are only so many basic level tips and stuff that I can offer. For those of you looking for more advanced gameplay than I can offer you,
Shall take you.
I would encourage you to check out the streams and videos of CBH, of Charmer, of Bradford Lee. These are all great players, and we are dead actually.
Blood and pain.
This is actually the most fitting way to end this.
I sure
Those are players who, you know, I have hit number 1 rank 1 legend, but I don't do it all the time. I don't play that enough to do that. But those are guys who are there every day grinding out their way to the top. So if you're looking for even more advanced gameplay tips, I would highly encourage you to check them out. I'm going to continue releasing gameplay videos every day, almost every day. But I have a brand new series of videos that will take the place of From Loser to Legend starting in about 2 weeks. It'll be on Sunday nights, just like this one is. Thank you all very much for joining me. This has been a great experience. If you know, when the game leaves open beta and goes to full release in the next, you know, month, 2 months, whatever it's going to be, please recommend these videos to your friends who are starting to get the game if you think they'd be helpful. Thank you for all the feedback. I've tried to address issues that everybody likes or everybody's asked about or interested in. I've had a great time making them. And as usual, I will see you all on the ladder. Thank you very much. Good night.